Monument Valley is a short and sweet game following Princess Ida's journey across a non-Euclidean world. Barely praised upon release, the game's simple mechanics and impossible geometry caught the eyes of many people, and it would become an incredibly popular game, with its legacy lasting to this day. Such notoriety as speedrun scene would of course emerge. Still, despite the game's simple mechanics, the limits would be pushed further and further with many ingenious strategies. Get comfy, because today we'll be talking about the world record progression of Monument Valley. While Monument Valley was added to speedrun.com in late 2015, the first run on the leaderboard would be Goose 2953, set sometime in the middle of 2016. However, it can be seen in his splits his first run was a 3106, which could possibly be this link, though the link doesn't lead to any genuine site anymore. It's also worth noting that a viewer, the Black Yuma, claims to have gotten a 3051, though this run was not recorded. While fairly primitive by today's standards, the run itself was quite well executed, with it being some 60 minutes faster than the expected length of a playthrough. Furthermore, all of Gyu's splits were golden, aside from Chapter 2, showing that the routing he had developed was genuinely effective in cutting time off. After the run, there wouldn't be any real activity, aside from a couple of runs in Ida's Dreams, until exactly 1 year and 1 day after the world record, when Take Pills would beat the run with a 2909. However, the run itself no longer exists due to Twitch's continuous purge of clips. Fortunately enough, he left a description on his run telling us that time saves were taken from Chapter 10, where Take Pills would take a different route, as well as utilizing the first genuine skips in the run, the first being the ending control in Chapter 10, where it makes several inputs allow Ida to finish out the level during the downward transition of the cutscene, and more importantly, tapbacks. Tapbacks are the most straightforward and the most useful strategy in Monument Valley, capable of saving several minutes off a standard run when used efficiently. The trick is incredibly simple. When the player clicks on the square where Ida can move, she'll begin moving there. During that time, clicking on another square will allow Ida to instantly begin moving there if possible once she reaches her original destination. This is incredibly useful, especially in areas such as Chapter 2 where players can move during cutscenes that normally keep you in place. This run, while being the first to feature new skips and strategies, would stay as the world record for a year and 3 months. During this time, a few players would submit runs, including LeftistTachyon, who would begin running the game in May. First getting a 3038, he'd eventually get a 2955, which he himself would admit wasn't a great run. Following this run, throughout August, Tachyon would submit several individual level records to the newly created leaderboard, with a total time of 850 between levels 1 to 5 and level 7, an impressive total time at the time. This improvement in August, he would beat his PB with a 2846. This run would feature new strategies, including an exit game strategy used after level 1, which cuts time off of the early cutscene, waterfall skip, and at the time inconsistent strategy in Chapter 4, which made the transitional cutscene far shorter, and stair spam, where inputs are rapidly inputted during the island segment of Chapter 9 to climb down the stairs faster. Even with this world record, Tachyon wouldn't let out. While the time between his and Take Pills run was more than a year, the time for the next world record to be set would be less than a week, as Tachyon would get a 2833 6 days later, saving time over minor improvement and noting that a sub 2830 was likely possible. In just 15 days, not only would Tachyon get a sub 2830, he'd get a sub 28 period. On December 13th, Tachyon would finish a 2740 run, time save of 52 seconds. To put that into perspective, the time saved from Gyu's run on the leaderboard to Tachyon's previous run was 57 seconds in total. Surprisingly, no time save was achieved via new strats, but rather through sheer optimization of movement and gameplay. Even with such a run, Tachyon wouldn't let up with the run, and a week later, he'd achieve a 2731 run, with the most time saved coming from a cleaner Chapter 6. With such little time separating the category from breaking his 2730 barrier, you'd expect a new record to arrive soon. Still, the 2731 would stand far longer than any other record Tachyon had set at this point. During the time that Tachyon's 2731 was still the world record, however, the Discord server for Monument Valley speedrunning would be created. Pro Shaman would begin becoming more active in the game alongside Tachyon, getting world records in other categories and high-level runs in Monument Valley itself. Over time, the community would slowly but surely get bigger, and a handful of players had joined in April, and records were being set in every category from either Tachyon, Shaman, or other players. Still though, Tachyon was a minute and a half ahead of second place, so losing his record was unlikely unless he would do it himself, and on April 5th he'd do just that, finally breaking the 27:30 barrier with a 27:27. Mostly due to some golden splits he had gotten in the run, saving time despite time loss in areas such as Chapter 10. With a potential time save of at least 20 seconds, Tachyon would get back to running the game, achieving a 27:25 just 6 days later, starting out with a fair amount of time loss, only to have an exceptional late game. With his splits, a 27 flat was not possible for sure. Being on the cusp of an entirely new minute barrier, Tachyon would start playing more and more, and just 5 days later, he whittled his time down to a 27:09, and the very next day, he would get his PB down to under 27 minutes. With a barrier in sight, you'd assume that the next run would come soon. Still, a major roadblock would come with the game's next update, making skips such as Waterfall Skip much harder to perform, if at all possible. While the old APK was still preserved, new players would have to deal with not being able to use this glitch. Well, until the game was updated, both adding back the glitch and making load times faster on August 1st. With the newest version of the game faster than any version before it, there wasn't any excuse to not set a new record, and 2 days later, that's just what Tachyon did. With a new PB time in 5 chapters, this 26:51 saved nearly 20 seconds, almost entirely from time saved from roads. However, this run will only be uploaded on the 24th when Tachyon remembered to. Finally, having beaten the time barrier, the community would begin running upper categories, in particular, Ida's Dream. Soon though, Tachyon would come back to the run and would get a 26:41, though this was originally timed as a 26:10. Still, another barrier presented itself at the 26:30 mark, though once again, the wait between records would be excruciatingly long. During this time, some new players would join the game, including one called Cribley. While mainly focused on running Ida's Dream, he would also submit a few runs to the main game, slowly improving his PB. And on February 23rd, just after getting a world record in Ida's Dream, Cribley would get a 25:46 in Monument Valley, smashing the 26:30 and 26 flat time barriers. This is because he had figured out that the exit-game strategy, previously only used after Chapter 1, did indeed save time when used after every chapter, cutting out a massive amount of time. However, he did lose a fair amount of time in Level 9, and with further optimization, a sub 25:30 would be possible. However, this run would last just 2 weeks instead of the 4 months Tachyon's previous run stood for, because on March 9th, Tachyon would beat Cribley with a 25:40, inching closer to the 25:30 mark. However, less than a week later, Cribley would strike back even harder, setting a 25:09. During this time, he discovered 2 new strats, the first being the Chapter 4 FAF, where the player would spam movement on the moving platform in order to pass quickly, and spam reduction, which was more or less purposely spamming as little as possible to prevent lag. It seemed that Cribley had established himself as the best in Monument Valley with a new world record. However, he would soon be challenged by another player, Angry. With his first run coming in at over 48 minutes on March 7th, Angry would improve incredibly quickly, and 1 week later he'd sit at 3rd place with a time some 20 seconds away from 1st place. 2 days later on March 16th, he'd take the record with a 25:683. If Cribley wanted his record back, he'd have to get a sub 25. Just 2 days later, Cribley would do just that and get the first sub 25 with a 24:51. And it seemed like that'd be the end of it, but 17 days later, Angry would respond with this. A 24:17, utilizing all known tricks at the time, with barely any time loss and only about 14 seconds worth of time save. This was a fantastic run, but it isn't a world record, because the very next day, Angry would come back, this time playing beyond relief. With 7 of his 11 splits being gold and only 4 seconds of potential time save, Angry demolished the 24-minute time barrier by getting a 23:48, with major help from a new strategy he had discovered, Fade Cancel, allowing the player to skip fade-ins during a level by buffering, and subsequently cancelling, opening the menu during movement into an entryway. And that's where the record stands today, and to date, it is the longest standing record in the game's history, lasting 1 year, 3 months, and then some. The first record in years to last over 6 months, let alone a year in its entirety. The record is optimized, but looking at the cumulative individual level leaderboard, there's definitely an opportunity for someone to take the record. Could it be Cribley, who's recently PB'd, or Casey, who beat many of the long-standing individual level records, or Angry themselves, or maybe it could even be you. Thanks for watching. Hey, so I just finished up editing the video, and I just want to say thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Cribley and LeftistTachyon for helping me with the video, both the script and all the information that I found. And just thanks to the community as a whole. You guys are really great. If you've made it this far and you enjoyed it, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, since I am getting pretty close to 100 subscribers. But other than that, I don't have anything to say, so I'll see you in the next video. Take care.